Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Nancy, what are you doing? Do you see it? There's someone behind the door. What? There's someone standing over there. I don't see anyone. It's looking right at us.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show. We are now on Tuesday, of course, being 21st of June 2016. This is because of, Monday was not convenient for one of us.
Me.
Yeah.
Rare.
Yeah. Sorry, I just kind of felt like pointing it out for a change.
Still, it's really rare, and if that's the case, I will point it out every single second you're late from now on in.
I was waiting on that. Yeah, we are 22 minutes late, but...
No, you're 22 minutes late. I've been sitting at my computer since 7:30.
But we have got a packed show to go through, so let's get it going without any further ado. So what have we got coming up on this week's delayed show, Stuart?
Yeah, reading out this list, I am going to be melting my bottom off because it is so warm.
It's not that warm here where I am. It's warm, but I'm guessing it's warmer where you are.
Yeah, it's warmer where I am, even though I'm on the coast, but I'm ginger-haired and I melt. I'm like Olaf from Frozen. I will melt, but I won't sing about songs about summer. Considering actually today is the summer solstice, it's the longest day of the year. Anyway, reviews-wise, we're looking at horror sequel. You heard an intro there from the original film, but we're looking at the sequel called The Conjuring 2, The Enfield Haunting. And then Alex Proyas sticks his foot in his mouth, and his fist, and his own head, with over-the-top epic Gods of Egypt, and then two strange movies, Tale of Tales and Cemetery of Splendour.
Yep, of course we'll have some news before that, the top 10, and then we'll have a break after all that when we'll go into the DVD and Blu-ray home release section.
Yeah, well, we're looking at quite a few films, so I'll just rattle on through them. We're looking at Trumbo, By the Sea, Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Road Chip, Gem and the Holograms, Vision, Escorts, The Forest, and Walk of Shame. Yep.
As usual though, we'll have a quick look at some movie news, and first of all go through a particularly sad piece of news this week, which just broke yesterday, regarding the actor Anton Yelchin. If you have not been aware, because it has been posted quite a lot of places, unfortunately Anton Yelchin has passed away at the age of 27 as a result of a freak accident that happened on Sunday morning, where he was accidentally pinned against the security gate by his own car. The actor is well known for playing mostly the character of Chekhov in the new Star Trek series films, but also has been in such things as Fright Night, Odd Thomas, and most recently in Green Room. So what do you think? I mean, it's amazing the fact that it's been one of the worst years for celebrity deaths. As any year we have them, it's just a way of life. And most of the ones we've had this year, Alan Rickman, David Bowie, have been late in their life. You know, they had a good life. They weren't sort of taken early as a result of something like this, taken at the age of 27.
Yeah, before I get into anything, if I could swear, I would swear at this moment in time, but I saw something to do with Lindsay Lohan, and she tweeted saying that she blames America and she blames Hollywood for the death of Anton Yelchin.
Apparently if you blame anyone, it should be the makers of the car, because it's possibly something to do with... I saw something about the type of car is one that had a recall or something recently.
I know, but she's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
To do that, just to bring limelight onto herself for regarding the death of a fellow actor. and she says, she blames Hollywood for the death of him. She's absolutely deplorable. But regarding Anton Yelchin, yeah, very, very good actor. He's got quite a few films still to come. His last film's not due out until 2017. But I loved him in his more smaller roles. I love Odd Thomas. Very few people have actually either seen it or really liked that film, and I'm one of the small amount of people who really liked Odd Thomas. I
quite liked it as well.
With that film.
I quite enjoyed it as well. It was very quirky.
I don't think not as much as me though, but I really like, and I really do want to see Green Room. I can't wait to see that film.
Yeah, Green Room.
It's definitely my kind of cup of tea, but he's going to be missed, especially because, like you said, playing Chekhov in the Star Trek films.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's in Star Trek Beyond as well.
He is. Yeah. That's already filmed. That's already finished, and I think it's actually already. I think it's actually finished post-production. I think it's all ready to go basically. But yeah, that was filmed a while ago. He was supposed to be doing. He started doing voice work on the Troll Hunter series. Is it Guillermo del Toro involved with that, isn't it?
For Netflix.
Yeah. So I don't know what the status is of that, if he had started, if he'd done it all, or if he was halfway through, or what. I don't know what they'll do.
No, he didn't do anything to do with Troll Hunter.
Yeah.
I think they were about to start.
Okay.
Started, so he didn't do that. But he's definitely going to be missed, and especially at the age of 27.
Yeah.
That's no age. Even if it is a freak accident,
yeah,
that's no age to actually go.
It's as well. I mean, I was looking at things and everything and thinking back to him, and one of the roles. I mean, it's a film that loads of people really hate it. But I actually think he did a really great role and a really great sign of a good actor in Terminator Salvation, where he was basically playing Michael Baine's character, and you could see in the role when you watched it, you could see a young Michael Baine there, because he had obviously gone and studied him, learned his mannerisms, and learned to act and talk and react like him, and how he did. So that's a sign of a really good actor doing that, and doing smaller films and not going for all big ones. Doing Star Trek fair enough, but then going and doing Green Room, Odd Thomas, again a smaller film, not doing the big massive blockbuster things all the time.
Yeah, and the one movie before we move on to the news that I think I'll definitely remember him for, because of the fact that it made me like romantic drama, was Like Crazy. I'm not a fan of romantic dramas.
I still haven't seen that.
They're not my cup of tea, but Like Crazy, it was just because of the fact that it was the relationship between both characters that worked really well in the film. And I thought he played a really good role in that film, so it was something like Crazy. But he will be remembered for being in smaller films, like you said, rather than like big, huge, massive blockbusters.
Yep. So moving on to the other news we have this week, a couple of casting pieces of information I've got here. First of all, that Noomi Rapace has been confirmed, or sort of rumoured, but things are working out together, that she is in Alien Covenant, the new sequel from Ridley Scott. We already had a release last week of an on-set photo that showed Michael Fassbender back, who played David in the previous film. And now there's sort of sources saying that she is in Australia. According to Deadline, it says sources say Rapace is in Australia and on set to shoot weeks worth of scenes. So it's a case of that, if she's there, it's only a week's worth of scenes that she's filming. That's not going to be a lot in the film. That's only going to be maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes of footage.
I think it's going to be the start of the film, because it's probably one of the only better ways you could actually put her character into the film itself. It to be the start of the film, where you do actually see her go off where she needs to go, or she discovers that David's alive, or something like that anyway. But it can't be like somewhere in the middle, because that'll make the film disjointed.
Well,
it would need to be somewhere near to the start.
I wonder that, because I mean it's got a cast in there as well as a bunch of other actors have been showing. It's not just her or anything. So I mean it could be that this next film is set on another ship that's come out looking and stuff, and then she turns up later in it and stuff.
It could be at the end of the film as well. Might lead into another prequel before Alien, because he did say he wants to make another sequel to Alien Covenant or Prometheus, and so it might be that, and then finally give Neil Blomkamp the chance to do Alien 5.
I just personally don't think Alien 5 is going to happen.
I just want to see Blomkamp direct an Alien film.
All right, the other piece of casting I've got is, and I cannot believe this one, but it's actually kind of got me excited a little bit just to see what happens. Helen Mirren has been added to the cast of Fast and Furious 8, or Fast 8 as it's being called. In an interview with Elle magazine, she confirmed this and said, I've always rather loved driving. I said I'll be in it, but only if I'm allowed to drive in it, if I do drive. But we'll see how it transpires.
Well, you've seen her in Red. You've seen how malevolent and nasty she can be in Trumbo. How she can just easily switch that on. She's working alongside Charlize Theron, who's playing the lead bad guy in Fast 8 as well.
Yeah.
So just imagine if Helen Mirren is a bad guy alongside Charlize Theron.
I'm wondering if it would be something like really weird, like they do something like mother and daughter.
Yeah, well done for F. Gary Gray then if he was involved with the casting of this, because it's making the film even more interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a thing. And did you didn't see though recently in Eye in the Sky, did you? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen it.
You really need to see it because it's a very, very good film. But she plays basically a colonel who is dead set on this has got to happen, this is happening, and it's not sort of so much an emotional performance as it is just a very dedicated performance. So she's got that in her as well, and she could do so much. Obviously, we've seen her in loads of things, but she's a great actress, and it's weird to have her added to this because you're going to have people like apparently Kurt Russell is back as well from Fast 7. So I do love this franchise, and I love how it seems to just be getting better and better.
You've also got Clint Eastwood's son in it as well, Scott Eastwood. He's going to be in it, and supposedly Lucas Black, he's returning to the film as well. Eva Mendes is supposed to be in it, and also Michelle Rodriguez. So we're finally actually getting a mixture of strong female characters and actresses and strong male characters and actors. So there's going to be a proper good mixture between that, and it's about time. Because we don't want, a lot of people are going, we want a female version of the Expendables. To be honest, I don't want that. We want a movie where it mixes them both together, gives them both equal footing. Mm-hmm. That's what we want to see. Don't split them up. You're well done. I actually can't wait for it now. Especially because Helen Mirren.
Yeah. What movie news have you got?
I've got loads of news, so I'll get through a lot of it quite quickly. According to a report by Variety, Paramount Pictures and Legendary Pictures, Robert Evans has secured the rights to the Saints film series and plan to reboot the movie series by making a trilogy.
Last I heard about this, they were going to try and make another series of it, an up-to-date version of the series, so I don't know what happened with that.
Now it's getting turned into a film.
I quite liked the Val Kilmer one at the same. It's one of those films I liked it, but it was very, very different because it was one of those ones that did the weird like prequel to the series that it never worked when they try and do it because it's like an origin story, but I don't think with the original series there was ever an origin story. It was just the character was who he was, so it was trying to reinvent the character but without actually giving us the character, which is a weird thing. I liked it though as a general film, but I was never massively into the Saint. I know of it obviously with Roger Moore, but I was never a big fan of it when growing up.
Neither was I, actually, to be honest. It was one of those ones where I was surprised that my parents didn't actually really like. I think they were more of a Man from U.N.C.L.E. rather than the Saint. Deadline are reporting that the Lego Movie 2 has had its release date pushed back again, originally set for release in 2017. The film was pushed back to 2018 as two spin-offs were announced, the Lego Batman movie and the Lego Ninjago movie. Now, the film has been moved again to February the 8th, 2019.
I don't have a massive problem with this. The reason I don't have a massive problem with this is because of the fact of as you see too many times with a franchise, when they rush them out and they have loads of them that aren't, because if it's not direct sequels, it's spin-off and stuff like that, and which there is obviously with Batman, the Lego Batman movie, it becomes very saturated very quickly, and you lose interest in it. So I think spacing them out better is going to help it in the long run, because it will mean that you'll have that breathing room between every Lego movie. Because if it was just loads of Lego movies, you would get bored of it very quickly.
Yeah, one quick piece of news: production on the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is finally wrapped up. So the film is due out next year, so production on that is done, and now it gets into the editing and all that McGubbins. After it was announced that a sequel to Sicario is in development, it's now been revealed that it will be a standalone film, and that a third film was already planned with Emily Blunt's character set to return. How could they have made a trilogy out of this film series?
Well, I mean, it's the ongoing thing about the drug cartels, isn't it? That's going to be a never-ending source of material. I think there's potential there. I mean, I could see them doing these two spin-offs, because one is the next film is supposed to be following
Benicio
del Toro's character, yeah, and then they do one following the Emily Blunt character, so it goes off in the two separate directions. I think then, though, they should do, or either have them appear in each other's films, or have then come back together for a separate film, or a film that brings them back together for story purposes.
Yeah, Dennis Villeneuve's not returning to direct any of them, so unfortunately people were looking forward to that. It's just purely a fact of that, because Sicario wasn't a massive movie, but it did well, and it had a good basis there that it got these sequels made off of it. But I think that it is a little bit kind of like clutching at straws sort of thing. He's a very busy director anyway. Steven Spielberg has announced that he is remaking the classical musical West Side Story. He is actually directing it.
Why? But why? But it's Spielberg, so it might be good. It's a director of that kind of caliber wanting to do a remake. But I would question his reasons for doing the remake. Yeah,
he's got the BFG coming out soon.
Yeah. I'm honestly not hyped about it at all. The BFG. I'm just not.
It looks alright. It looked. There was a trailer on it before The Secret Life of Pets. So I've seen a preview of The Secret Life of Pets.
I've seen the trailer, and I honestly sat there and I was like, well, yeah, it's the BFG. Okay.
Didn't have a feel of the original BFG for me anyway. Deadline are reporting that NBC Universal are planning to resurrect the Shrek franchise after its purchase of DreamWorks. So now, where NBC own DreamWorks and Illumination Studios.
Are we going to have minions popping up in Shrek then?
No, they're not there. They'll not meld Shrek and minions together.
There will be a movie somewhere out that will have. It won't maybe be a Shrek movie or a Minions movie, but it will be a movie set in a universe, and they will get them both in there in the same scene. I guarantee it. Someone's already planning that.
By the way, there is a Minion short attached to The Secret Life of Pets, and it is really funny.
Okay.
Deadline are reporting that Paramount Pictures have approached two Belgian directors to helm the fourth Beverly Hills Cops film, with Eddie Murphy set to return as Axel Foley. The directors in question are Adil El Arib and Bilal Falal.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of that the trailer for Life of Pets with a minion at the end going Illumination. But yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's it basically. But Beverly Hills Cop 4. Wow. Okay, so it failed to be made into a TV series from a pilot, and now we're getting another film. Yeah. Yay, Eddie Murphy, just roll over finally and give up.
Genndy Tartakovsky is returning to direct the third Hotel Transylvania film.
As long as it's better and has at least a joke in it, so it's better than the second one.
Yep, Paul Feig has confirmed to Empire magazine that he is directing a sequel to Spy, and that it will feature more of Jason Statham's character.
Paul, hang on a minute, who?
Paul Feig.
Paul. Okay. I'm thinking that name's. Is it not Paul?
No, Paul Feig. Ghostbusters, Spy, Bridesmaid.
Oh, that's why. I'm just thinking something else. So he's doing what?
Are you thinking about Kevin Feige?
Yeah, that's what's
the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Hang on a minute, he's directing something. Yeah, no, that's completely thrown me off. Okay. Just Paul Feig.
How can you get Paul Feig and Kevin Feige mixed up?
Because it was just
a bit of a blender.
It's just, it's been a long day.
Still though, Paul Feig making a sequel to Spy.
Well, it's the best of his films. I did have to rewatch it recently with my wife, and I have to admit I still enjoyed it the second time around, and it was still funny, and it was the least annoying Melissa McCarthy has ever been.
No, she was really annoying.
No, I think it was fine, and it was thanked as well, largely to Jason Statham, who I hope if they're doing a sequel to Spy, they're gonna bring him back for it, because he was crucial to a lot of the jokes, the humour in it.
Yeah, she was really, really annoying.
If they can't get Jason Statham back for it, they need to get someone back, like another superhero, another actor like Jason Statham, action actor like that, and do the whole face-off machine thing, because that would be even funnier.
The least annoying role that I've seen Melissa McCarthy in so far is probably the one that she did for St. Vincent, because she was completely 100% serious in that film. So I think that's where I was harking on for it to actually do more drama, and she's still not doing that. Two more pieces of quick news. THR reporting that Eli Roth will be the director of the remake of Death Wish, which will star Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I heard about this. I mean, I know Bruce Willis is still doing loads of action films and everything, but what is he, like 70?
Well,
doing
the Bronson, wasn't it? Who did
but he wasn't quite that old. He was in his sort of 40s or 50s, wasn't he?
He was like 90 by the time he got to like Death Wish 77. Please kill me now. Switch off my machine.
The best gag ever to do with Charles Bronson is in a Simpsons episode.
Yeah.
With the whole going down to exit Emmett's toolshed to fix Emmett.
Yep.
Yeah.
And final piece of news. It's only small, but I looked at this and went, really, it's happened. It's been revealed that a sequel to Stakeland is happening called The Stake Lander, which is an awful title.
Yeah.
However, it's already finished film shooting.
What? How have we not heard about this?
Yeah, exactly. It's done a 10 Cloverfield Lane on us, and it's already finished film shooting. Nick D'Amicio is in the first one. He's returning for the sequel. It's not going to be directed by Jim Mickle, who did the first film. But yeah, it's already finished filming, and it's due out soon, called The Stake Lander. Please change that title.
Awesome, something to look out for then.
Yeah, because I love that film, but I saw that piece of news and went, really? I didn't even hear anything to do with the sequel happening.
It's not some leftover news from like April or something, April the 1st.
No.
Okay.
It's definitely called The Stake Lander. A trailer's actually due out soon for the film. That's the news that I've got.
Okay, box office top 10. Starting at number 10 with The Jungle Book.
No, wrong chart.
Am I?
You're on the old chart, aren't you? There is a new chart out.
Is there? I don't have it then.
Yeah, 17th to the 19th of June. I can send you a quick link to it. This is just brilliant live on air stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm looking at the place I normally look at it.
There is a link to the chart. So while he's actually clicking on that there, I'll just mention that in the chart itself, you've got other films like Tale of Tales, which we are reviewing on this week's show, and Cemetery of Splendour, which we are also reviewing on this week's show. Have you got the chart yet? Let him click on the link and scroll down through the chart.
Yes, I'm just scrolling. Yes, okay, I have it. So start number 10 then is Angry Birds.
Yeah, hooray, we've finally got the professional, aren't we? But yeah, the Angry Birds film surprised me. I've heard a few critics being very sniffy about the film itself, especially one standing critic for a specific movie show. When I was listening to what he was saying about the film, I was thinking, did you actually watch exactly the same movie as me? Because the way you're slating this movie, it's like one of these really bad movies where a lot of countries are actually come together to make it. And in this case, the Angry Birds movie, it's completely inoffensive. It's fun, it's brash, it's colourful, it flows very well for the 90 minutes, and yeah, it's not bad.
Number 9 is The Boss,
which I've not seen.
Yeah, I didn't mind some parts of it, but the rest of it was the typical Melissa McCarthy comedy that's not really comedy, not really funny, not really great. My other half didn't mind it. She quite liked it, but she liked it more than I did. But it's just nothing original, nothing new to it. The whole thing, it's just another Melissa McCarthy thing.
Yeah.
Warcraft: The Beginning is at number 8.
Yeah, I quite liked Warcraft: The Beginning. Duncan Jones has turned around now and said that he really does want to make a sequel. It's done very well for itself in China, especially in China. Actually, it's gone past the $200 million mark over there. It's actually gone past about $350 million worldwide. So it's proven that you do not need to be to have a good taking in America to be successful. Because it's the rest of the world now actually counts when it comes to films, and it's also snapped the title of being the highest grossing video game movie adaptation. That was originally Prince of Persia. So well done for it, and it deserves it. There's a few in-jokes there for Warcraft fans, and everybody else, even though some of the story you might not actually gel with or you might not understand, there's still enough in there to actually keep you entertained.
X-Men Apocalypse at number 7.
Unlike X-Men Apocalypse, which is just dribble. It's an inconsistent mess. There's times when the film itself does work and it does show promise, but the rest of the times it feels like it's like polyfiller over the top of cracks. It's trying to fill in some gaps where there doesn't need to be any filler. You just need some proper good storytelling rather than just little elements being stitched together to make a supposedly coherent mess.
And number 6 is The Nice Guys.
I haven't seen it yet.
I really want to see what you think of this because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great film. I do love Shane Black's style of comedy and his direction, but it's a good thriller. It has some action sequences as well. It's got a great sort of tete-a-tete between the two lead characters, Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, who just have a great chemistry. And it's an odd but fun sort of a little bit of a rehash of some of the things he's written before, but it was good laugh from start to finish all the way through. I really enjoyed it.
My cinema though is not showing it as of Friday, so the last showing of it is this Thursday, so I've got a choice of either to go see Independence Day on this.
Or a double bill.
No, it's Thursday night, so I'll be finishing work at 5:30, so a double bill will take me until well past midnight.
Okay,
Not
then
going to happen.
Tomorrow night then as well then.
I can't do it tomorrow night though.
Number 5 is Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Yeah, it's not a very good sequel at all. When you can say the best thing about your movie is a hammy kind of performance by Sacha Baron Cohen, and Mia Wasikowska, she tries her hardest with the character of Alice. That's the best thing you can say about the film itself. It's from a director who, I was going to say should know best, but it's annoying to actually say that about a director. But it's from a director who's done the Muppets movie, and you expect over the top fun like you did in the Muppets film. You don't get that in this.
Number 4 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows.
If you want to destroy an 80s franchise, well done, you've gone and succeeded. I was speaking to a friend who really liked the film. He thought the film was absolutely excellent, and he wouldn't listen to me when I was telling him no it wasn't, when I was actually listing the things that are so wrong with the movie. And this is a guy who's pretty much the same age as me, who grew up watching the Turtles, and I'm thinking to myself, have you got a memory of a fish? Can you actually remember what the Turtles was originally like back in the late 80s, early 90s? It was fun, brash, over the top, and then you've got dark characters which is introduced into the series, including Casey Jones, and April O'Neil was more of a strong female character. Everything is thrown into the gutter in this film.
Okay, and the top 3 films, we'll be getting to numbers 3 and number 1 in just a moment, because they are new releases. Number 3 is Gods of Egypt. Number 2 is Me Before You.
Yeah, it went into number 1 last week, but we didn't have last week's chart because of the fact that we're on a Tuesday, so we've got the new chart. Me Before You is a very straightforward, down the line romantic drama. A lot of people who have got a disability, who were actually born with a disability, are taking offence to the film because the way it actually portraits the Sam Claflin character in the film itself. The fact that he is moping and moaning after having an accident and thinking that there's nobody out there. Emily Clark, she just plays somebody who's been injected with sugar throughout the entirety of the movie, so you could give her the worst news possible and she'll still be smiling and bubbling and thinking that everything's all joyful and singing and lots of butterflies and rainbows and all that kind of stuff, and it really grates on you. But the film itself is just average. There is nothing special about it.
So that means the number 1 is
The Conjuring 2.
Yeah.
Nice way to actually pause there.
Yeah.
Yep, The Conjuring 2, or its full title is The Conjuring 2, The Enfield Case. It's directed by James Wan. It's obviously, as you can probably guess, a sequel to The Conjuring. And in The Conjuring itself, it set up the characters of the Warrens. We were introduced to them first off, played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. They returned to the sequel, and so in the first one you saw them tackle one supposedly their hardest case, alluding to their most famous case, which was to do with the Amityville haunting. And so in the start of this film itself, it shows you what actually happened at the Amityville haunting, so much so to shake Lorraine to the bone, and for her to explain that that was the hardest case apart from one thing that happened in Enfield in the UK. So then the movie shifts to the UK, to Enfield, where we discover a family. Jeanette is the mother, played by Madison Wolfe, and then you've got the kids. So the family is the Hodgson family. They seem to be living a normal life, even though the father has gone and left them alone. They've got a really dilapidated house. But in the early 70s, they seem to be having a really normal time. The older kid, Peggy, she's sort of like does okay at school, but she seems to get called in a lot by the teacher. Her brothers and sisters, they just do what they normally do. Then things start to go awry. Things start to go badly, especially for Peggy. She starts to... her attitude starts to change, and weird things start to happen to her. She starts seeing things in the middle of the night. She starts getting pulled out of her bed, so she attaches herself to her bed, and then it's discovered that something might be behind this. So they get a television crew to sort of like film what's going on. Here's a clip.
How does it feel living in a haunted house?
You don't get used to it. I think we was just a normal family before this.
It's been getting worse since Mr. Gross started talking to it.
I wonder what would happen if we tried talking to it now. Is anybody there? Is anybody there who wishes to communicate? Janet?
What is your name?
This is my home.
And so, as you heard in the clip there, Janet is actually possessed by this old guy who originally lived at the house. So the only way they can get around the case or get around what's going on is to enlist the help of the Warrens. And at the start, when they get there, Lorraine suspects that something else might be behind this. But the more she's there, the more she's actually tormented by a spectral figure who has sort of like latched herself onto her from the Amityville Haunting. So the Amityville Haunting brings its malevolent nastiness over to Enfield in the form of the Nun. Now, as with the Conjuring, they made a spin-off called Annabelle. Now, Annabelle's getting a sequel near to the end of this year, based around the doll, and the doll actually pops up again right at the end of the film. It's not a spoiler, but she pops up again in the glass case, because it's exactly the same kind of setup as the original Conjuring. Now, with the Conjuring 2, with the Nun character, there is going to be a spin-off film regarding the Nun character. So we're going to see the backstory regarding the Nun and how she haunted the Amityville Haunting. But in this case, she is really nasty. There's got a fantastic design behind her. There are a few scares revolving around her, especially there's a VR experience which was released just before the film came out, which revolved around the Nun, and it gave away, unfortunately, one of the scary elements of the movie. But that scary element is sort of like, you can see what's going to happen to it, because it's sort of like strung out, and then all of a sudden, bam, there's your scary moment. But it's not. James Wan is a much more smarter director than have a movie where you just got quiet, bang kind of sounds. He likes to build up stuff, so when you might know when something's going to happen once the sound gets sucked out of a scene. So areas in the film itself will go quiet, then all of a sudden you will get an absolutely loud sort of like jump. And a few people did jump in the screening of the film itself. It's also got a couple of scenes which I've not actually seen before in a horror film. I'm not going to give them away, but one specifically I've not seen done in a horror movie before, and it's a sort of like a smart thing to do. It's really difficult to try and do something unique when it comes to horror, especially when it comes to this kind of horror. And to do that in a film like this, then yeah, well done for James Wan to do that. Is it stronger than the first film? I can't say that. I think it's on par with the first film. It's got a few problems. A lot of people might look at the first hour and think it drags a little bit and it chops and changes a bit too much. But I think the way one actually tells the story is very well done, and there's a lot in there for you to actually follow. The film itself is on for nearly 2 hours and 15 minutes, so it's a very long film. But me, I love horror films where they tell the story of the characters and makes you feel about the characters, and when bad things happen to them, it makes, for me, a much more interesting horror film. So I like the film itself. It's on par with The Conjuring. If you didn't like the original Conjuring, then you're not going to find anything of worth from The Conjuring 2. If you did really like the first Conjuring, then you're not going to find this better. You're going to find it on par, and the first one is actually a really good film.
Okay, moving on then to Gods of Egypt, which is kind of the other big movie this week, directed by Alex Proyas. It's written by Matt Sazama and Burke Sharpless. It is a kind of a weird rehashing of the whole Egyptian gods thing. If the title doesn't give you anything away, where you have this whole thing set in the time of when supposedly gods did walk among us. And you have some of the gods being played by actors such as Nicholas Coster-Waldau, who's from, if you don't recognise the name, you will know him from as Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones, and you have Gerard Butler, who the two of them play. Gerard Butler plays Set, who is uncle to Horus, played by Nicholas Coster-Waldau, and it's all about the thing of that you have these gods that they're different from people because they are basically double the size, so they're twice as tall and just typically stand out, but they are able to shape-shift themselves into basically things, winged creatures of some sort, or creatures that resemble things like the jackals and stuff like that, and basically end up sort of getting into battles between the two of them, and between themselves, because of the fact of that obviously somebody wants more power than somebody else. You have the character of Horus, played by Nicholas Coster-Waldau, who is then basically blinded because his eyes are taken from him by Set, who has sort of left the desert, which was his area, and come to the main part of Egypt because he wants control over everything. You then have the fact of that he is rescued by a young man who comes along, whose name I've forgotten, but I will try and find in a minute, who comes along basically trying to Beck, played by Benton Thwaites, who has basically come along and has decided he will help Horus, because Horus can help him to get back his love, who is now in the underworld. And so of course they set off on a journey. Of course Set sends people after them to try and stop them. Here's a clip.
Is that a storm? There's no clouds. Set's hunters, riding their pets. Those aren't pets. A cat is a pet.
I can't withstand their venom. Not as I am now.
Then I guess we should run.
Run?
Mortals do it all the time.
Run faster!
I can't! Run faster! I can't!
And believe it or not, that is pretty much the only clip that you can find that even remotely works for audio. And it's a film that you heard there in that clip. There's attempts at being whimsy and being humorous and making cracking jokes, and that's what the film does for pretty much all the time. Every second line is an attempt at being funny, but it's not funny. You have the whole thing of the action sequences are just overblown, ridiculous, and not even exciting action. You have hundreds of effects in this film, most of which are you sit there and you're wondering, you're watching it going, what? It's just, you're wondering what's going on a lot of the time and have no idea. You have this whole thing of there is one great sequence in it which is basically set up on, and it's a weird thing where basically the Ra, the sun god, played by Geoffrey Rush, most remarkably, in some horrifically aging makeup, plays a god who is basically sat on a ship floating high up above the earth in space, and which the earth is represented as being a flat round disc kind of thing. So it's back in the whole belief that the earth is not round, belief that the earth is actually a flat thing. and protecting the Earth against this big thing that comes and tries to devour it every day, which is the difference between sun at day and the moon at night. And it's got all these nice ideas and that behind it of that, and this nice setup of I love the whole aspect of the ideas of the Egyptian culture and the history and the gods and everything like that. It's a complete and utter mess, though. I really am at a loss to just fully describe how much of a disastrous mess this is. And it comes from Alex Proyas, who's a director who I really love. The Crow, I think he did a really good job on that, especially with the hardship of things that happened during the filming. And then he did Dark City. Dark City is an absolutely phenomenal piece of noir science fiction. One of it will be in many people's top 10 lists of science fiction and noir that's ever been made. And it's a beautiful film, and it's intelligent, it's thought out, and it's visually vibrant and exciting and just impressive on all levels. And it's literally like he went, I need to make another film that's like Dark City but the complete opposite, and that's what he's done. It's dumb, it's not funny, it's not exciting. You sat there and you're watching it, and half the time you're going, what, why, who's this, why is he doing that? And then you got Gerard Butler comes along, and Gerard Butler just does the whole Gerard Butler 300 screaming, shouting, talking, like he's gonna, even in the moments when he talks, he's still shouting, and he just seems peed off most of the time. And I can only think that during making the film, he realised he got a glimpse of the future and saw the final product and sat there and think, oh my god, I'm in this. It's honestly terrible. The thing that's just even worse is that it's such a fall from Alex Proyas, someone who can do a good film. And it's taken ages to come out here because of the fact it did so poorly in the box office in America. It was panned universally by almost everyone. Alex Proyas has come out saying critics don't have a clue about it, critics are all against it. It's not that critics are all against it, Alex, it's because you made an absolutely terrible pile of rear-ended stuff.
The thing with the film itself, Alex Proyas did turn around in an interview and said that all critics are vultures because of the fact that they're hitting towards the film. Now, if you think what vultures do, vultures pick at the carcass of dead things. Vultures look at things that are decaying, that are rotten, that are just putrefying. So if he's actually insinuating that critics are something that picks at dead things, well done, you've just gone and explained your film to a T. Critics are picking apart your film because it's absolutely dead. It had no pulse when it arrived in cinemas, especially in theatres in America. It didn't do very well at all. The box office takings worldwide is around about 113 million on a budget of 140 million. You have to realise the film has been out worldwide now for 4 months. That is pathetic. And to actually see it, that it's critics' fault that the film itself didn't do very well at the box office. I wonder how many people you would ask who go to the cinema actually listens to what critics say. How many people, you take a straw poll of people who go to the cinema and ask, do you listen to movie review shows? Do you read reviews when it comes to films? Any bets, no more than 10% of them will turn around and say yes. They're only going to the film because it's date night or whatever, the advertising, the trailer might look good. The reason why your film didn't do very well is because people didn't want to go and see it, because they probably heard word of mouth from their friends saying how much of an absolute total garbage mess this film is. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to take something as interesting as the Egyptian mythology, which I absolutely love. I love everything to do with Egyptology, and do something so atrocious like this that it would make the directors of Clash of the Titans, not the original Clash of the Titans, the remake of Clash of the Titans and Wrath of the Titans as well, just look at it and go, you know what, I'm glad I didn't direct that absolute mess of a movie. Clash and Wrath of the Titans are a million times better. At least they were fun every now and again. This is just head-bangingly awful from beginning to end.
Yeah, it's a complete and utter head scratch. It really is. You sit there and you just, what is going on?
Exactly. 2 films. and onto the sort of like the strange area when it comes to cinema releases of the week. And I think the first one is the antithesis of that. Tale of Tales, directed by Matteo Garrone, who did a movie called Gomorrah. And this is his first English language film. Got a very impressive cast, and it centers around 3 fairy tales. Now, these aren't your traditional fairy tales that you read in kids' books. So, even though if you look at things like Snow White and tales like that, the Grimm tales, they've got very dark elements to them. If you look at the original Cinderella, the whole way for her to get a foot into the glass slipper was to cut off toes. That's never mentioned in any of the Cinderella adaptations, but if you look at the original Grimm stories, it is. She cut off a toe. So these are actually based on 17th century Italian folk stories. There was actually a movie released in the 70s called Tale of Tales as well, which centered around them. What the director has done, Matteo Garrone, is centered around specifically 3, which involves kings and queens. So you've got a story which stars Selma Hayek and John C. Reilly, which we'll hear a clip about that in a moment, which it's all about them and a serpent's heart. And then you've also got a story which centers around Vincent Cassel's character, who plays a king who falls in love with this woman, even though only hearing her voice, and discovers something malevolent is behind it. And then you've got the third story which centers around Toby Jones's character, who ends up falling in love with a flea, and then ships his daughter off with this big, huge, massive ogre when this ogre can identify what this creature is. Now, rewinding back to the first story, the Selma Hayek and John C. Reilly one, this is the one that seems to take the most crux of the film itself. Because like I said, Selma Hayek plays a queen who's finding it difficult to have a baby. So she goes to this this guy, and this guy says the only way you can actually do it is if you devour the heart of a sea serpent. Basically.
You want a child? Every new life calls for a life to be lost. The equilibrium of the world must be maintained. Do you understand?
I am prepared to die in order to feel life grow inside me.
We are speaking of possibility, not certainty. Are you willing to accept the risk?
What must we do?
Hunt down a sea monster. Cut out its heart and have it cooked by a virgin, but she must be alone. When your Majesty eats the heart, you will become pregnant instantly.
Now, as I've said, these are based on Italian fairy tales known as the Giambattista Basili, and they are really dark. They're very interesting tales. And what Matteo Garrone has done is he's made a sort of like an anthology of fairy tales for adults, and it's a really rare thing to actually see that. I know we've been getting movies over the last few years which have taken basic fairy tales and sort of like adult them up a little bit in absolutely failed. Just a lot of those films just absolutely failed. This one, it doesn't fail at all, because the fact that you've got some very strong acting from everybody involved. Selma Hayek, Vincent Cassel, Toby Jones, John C. Reilly, Shirley Henderson. Everybody involved are latching on with their characters with such gusto that you believe in them. Especially like Toby Jones's one. I think he's got the hardest one out of them all, to fall in love with a flea. And then this flea sort of like started growing. So he doesn't have a wife. There is no queen around, and he pretty much falls in love with a flea, which is a difficult thing to actually do, because you can just imagine on set when the director is going, now Toby, right down beside you is a flea, so while your daughter is actually playing a song, you've got to concentrate on this flea, and then all of a sudden fall in love with it. It is brilliantly well done by Toby Jones, and like I said, every one of the stories is very interesting. It plods along just a tiny bit too much because it's on for just over 2 hours, so its running time is probably its biggest detriment. However, the whole film itself is enjoyable. It's not subtitled, so it is in English, and so it's not one of those ones where a lot of people might be put off because it is in Italian folklore stories, but it's not in Italian, it's actually in English, so that will actually make you want to watch it even more. And overall, it's a very enjoyable, very creepy at times movie. I recommend it.
Interesting. I was supposed to have seen it. I didn't have time because I've had busy things going on this week and for next week as well. So I don't know I'm going to see it because of everything else that's coming out. I really want to see 2 of the films coming out this week, so it might get left behind for me, unfortunately.
You'll have to review it when it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's very soon. Actually, it's going to get one of those ones where it's out in cinemas.
It's a quick release. Yeah.
And then not like a quick, like straight out kind of release, but it's going to have like, I think it's a month down the line when it's out on Blu-ray and DVD. So yeah, it'll be interesting to find out what you think of it.
I do like the look of it, and I do like quirky things like that. So it's just the thing of it. It's one of those things that I really need to try and find time to go and see it, because you're saying obviously the running time as well. Is it more than 2 hours?
It's 2 hours, about 2 hours and 5 minutes.
2 hours, so it's 2 hours. Yeah. So it's still got to find no time to do that and see that when, you know, all the extra things that happen before it when you go to see stuff. So yeah, I could try, but I doubt I will be able to at the moment, unfortunately.
Well, the next film that I'm going to have a quick review over, I doubt you'll even actually watch this when it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD, because you'll have never heard of it before. It's Cemetery of Splendour. It's directed by Apichatpong Weerathsikul, who did a movie called... What?
It's just the way he managed to nonchalantly just put out a name like that, and it's just like, yeah, it's fine. I would literally just be tripping over my tongue.
Apichatpong Weerathsikul. He did a film called Uncle Bon Me Who Can Recall All His Past Lives, which is a very strange, disjointed kind of movie. It's got fairy tale, fantastical elements to it, but it's a very interesting film, and that's the way Apichatpong directs his movies. This film itself, Cemetery of Splendour, it's got a very simple storyline, in the fact that it's set in a small little, it's I think it's Thailand where it's actually set, in a small little village where all the soldiers have got narcolepsy, but they've got such a strong version of narcolepsy where they don't just like all of a sudden they could be sitting around and then fall asleep and then they can come back straight away. They actually fall asleep for good 10, 12, 15, even up to 20 hours a day. In some cases, some of the soldiers are out for weeks. And so the film itself centres around a character who's played by Jinjira Pongpas, who plays sort of like this woman who's got a problem with her leg. She's got a disability, and you discover throughout the film what this disability is. And she comes back to the school where she grew up in, because the film itself is set in a small little village where she grew up. Discovers that it's a hospital, so she decides to stay at this hospital to help out the soldiers and help out the nurses of there. And you discover what kind of what she's actually been doing throughout her life, and it's just pretty much centers around her story and her care for the soldiers. Now, the way the director directs these films is, we've seen movies where directors have long takes of shots, just single shots, where the camera will steer on something for about 30 seconds and then go on to something else. Well, Apichatpong Weerathsikul directs films like that, but he does a lot of scenes like that in his films. And the scenes last a good minute and a half. For example, there's a scene which is inside the room where all the soldiers are actually sleeping, and the camera itself is pointed onto the fans, the ceiling fans, and it's there for about 2 minutes. And in that 2 minutes, all you see is just the colour change. You just see the colour move from blue to red to green while these fans are whirling around. And then the camera doesn't actually pan down, it just comes down to a shot of these lights that are actually changing colour, and then it stays there for a minute. Now the film does that a lot throughout it. You see static images of scenery, and then it's just left there for a little while, and then it comes to the scene centred around Jinjiri Pongpas. Now she was in Uncle Bon Me Who Can Recall All His Past Lives, and she's actually been in his previous films. She's very good. It's a very subtle character. A lot of people will not get on with the film itself because it pretty much has no follow-through narrative. It's a very, very thin story, and it's on for over 2 hours. And so to have a very thin story and to stretch it over 2 hours will put off a lot of people. However, it's a very relaxing film. It's a kind of film that, if you've gone to see something like an Independence Day or a big, over-the-top blockbuster movie, you want something to calm yourself down. It's one of those ones. It's not like the kind of thing where if you've had a stressful day at work, you have a nice soothing bath. It's not that kind of thing, because that wouldn't calm me down at all. It would actually make me even more agitated. But it's one of those movies where you just want to switch off the world and you're relaxing for 2 hours. And that's what it is. It's like you're in a deprivation tank, and you're there for 2 hours, and very little is happening. But you're glad that it's actually there, because you could have it pretty much on in the background and not even care what the characters are saying, because you just want to soak in the scenery, and you just want to soak in what's actually happening in the film itself. So overall, it's a very good film, but it's only for the minority. A lot of people will not like it. It's not like a 50-50 split. It's more like, I think only 10, maybe 20% of people will get on with the film itself. And it's not me saying, no, you've got to be hoity-toity kind of people who are obsessed with these very artsy kind of movies. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you need to actually be into these movies where very little happens. And if you actually let it do that, then you'll get on with the film itself. If you're expecting Michael Bay to pop up with one of his characters to blow off the head of the lead character in the film, then yeah, you're an idiot, and that'll definitely not happen.
Right, I'm curious to see what you're going to pick for movie of the week. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to pick yet, but
yeah, it's going to be hard. I think
it's one of those
hard
weeks
for you because the fact that I don't think you've seen very many good films.
No,
and it's going to be hard for me because I've actually seen some really good films.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break as usual. We'll be back in a minute with this week's DVD and Blu-ray releases, so stick around for that.
There was a real sense of you were doing something wrong, but that did give it that feeling of excitement.
When the reveal of the film happens, that's when it just becomes absurd.
And the atmosphere and just the sense you get whenever you go into it is undeniable.
It did absolutely zero for me, which could be for the hype.
What we've just discussed there is just scratching the surface on it.
Hi, I'm Eric England, the director of Contracted, and you're listening to From Page to Screen, the horror show.
And welcome back to this week's Monday Movie Show. We're into the Blu-ray and DVD section where we're looking at these films.
Yeah, we have the true story of Trumbo. We have a drama centering around the life of a couple whose marriage is not going so well in By the Sea. We have animation and real life in Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Road Chip. Gem and the Holograms are here. Visions is this week's kind of one of two horror films in this week's section, followed by The Escorts. The other horror film of the movies this week is The Forest, and then we have Elizabeth Banks doing The Walk of Shame.
And on top of that, we have our TV movie of the week, the overall movie of the week. But let's kick things off in this section of the show with the Blu-ray and DVD top 10. You'll notice there is one film absent from the Blu-ray and DVD top 10 chart. Point Break.
I was actually looking to see.
And I was looking through the chart itself, and I found the original Point Break.
Yeah, is it the original, or have they messed it up?
I clicked on the link itself, and it takes you to a link of the web of Amazon where you could buy it, and it is the original Point Break. And I couldn't find the remake in the top 100 at all. Which made me question either A, they've made a mistake the chart, or B, the film did so bad that nobody bought it. That more people went out and bought a film that was released 2.5-3 years ago.
Yeah,
I don't think just, it's the latte.
That's just so. I don't think we've ever seen that before with a big film.
Yeah,
have we?
So even though it was terrible, it might have been a mistake, and we'll never know actually, because I don't think they're gonna amend that. But into this week's top 10, at number 10 is Bobby.
Yeah, I haven't seen this, but it's a documentary about Bobby Charlton, the footballer. So I don't even know really about Bobby Charlton more than that. So it's a documentary though. It's one that was made with crowdfunding last year. So it's been put together and it's done obviously well enough. It's probably because of the following of people, and it's raised awareness as it was doing that. But in the right people to actually be, it's not a new release. It was released 3 weeks ago. It's come up the chart from last week. It was number 11.
The reason why it's come up in the chart is because of the Euros. Bobby Charlton was a big player in the England squad, and he was also a huge, massive player for Manchester United.
Oh, there you go. So you know more about him than I do.
Yes, I know it surprises a lot of people when they look at me and go, you know about football? Really? And rugby, which will surprise even more people. And hockey, which surprises me. At number 9 is Creed.
which is a really good sort of spin-off from the Rocky franchise that manages to kind of stay connected with the character of Rocky appearing. Michael B. Jordan is really good in the role of the Adonis Creed character, and it's nicely shot, and it's interesting for it to be set in the world of which has been 7 films before. I think 6 or 7, I can't remember how many it is now.
6.
It is 6. But to be set in a series like that, for it to still be inventive and filmed in a way that's exciting is impressive.
Yeah, number 8 is a new entry for Bone Tomahawk, or as I've got it written down here, Bone Tomahawk.
It could have been a very, very different film.
But it was HAW, so not in the one that you're probably thinking of.
Phonetically, yeah. But it's a film that I really, really liked. It's a western that is very odd in that it's got that twist of kind of like a Cannibal Holocaust feeling to it, and it's got this really kind of laid back way to the western setting of it, and the characters that are spending a lot of time just basically walking and travelling and talking, which is what oddly makes it very interesting and very kind of, you sit there and you want to listen, you want to get into the conversations that's happening, not just, you're not expecting it to just become a shootout thing as a lot of westerns do, and it's nice for that. It's nice refreshing change.
Number 7 is Goosebumps,
which I really didn't love it, but I didn't hate it or anything. It's that kind of middle enjoyable, but it's more enjoyable than you think. It is the whole Jumanji style of fun action family drama thing that happens, and it's a nice twist on the way it's done, with it being based on the fictional writer of a real book series, which is nicely sort of handled.
Yeah, R.L. Stein, and who would have thought Jack Black wouldn't be annoying? He's not.
Even though he does give it a really good try with a really annoying accent.
I still actually, it didn't annoy us, which is surprising. And number 6 is a new entry for 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi,
which I liked a lot more than you did.
I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a really nicely handled sort of action thriller from Michael Bay. It is, I think, one of his best films in a long time. It does have character to it, as much as some people, I think, disagree. And it has moments that it does set up tension, and it has good action sequences in it as well. And I think it's a film that I actually find it really engaging. I've seen it numerous times now because I saw it at the cinema a few times, and I actually got the Blu-ray of it and I've watched that, so I've been enjoying this film in the time that I've had to be able to, and I will see it again because I really did actually think it's a nicely handled film.
It is Michael Bay's best film for a while. I'll give you that caveat. It's a million times better than the awful Pain and Gain in the last Transformers movie. I actually really, really hate Pain and Gain. If you look at the films that's been released in the,
you don't just hate it, you despise it.
So if I was to actually put a bottom 10 films that I've seen in the last 6 years, for the first 6 years of the 2010s, Pain and Gain would be in there, alongside definitely a few other films. You can probably guess what they are. Adam Sandler ones, cough cough. But yeah, it's not as bad as that lot there. It's much more tolerable from him, but it's still got a ton of beerisms in the film itself. There is a lot of his grubby little mitts all over the film.
But it doesn't have any of his leeriness that he has in a lot of his films, and gets away with a lot in Transformers as well.
It doesn't, but it still doesn't even have any character at all. When he's trying to actually give some backstory or some gravitas to the characters themselves, it feels like it's being written by a 5-year-old and not somebody who's been doing this for a lot of his life. There is just no depth to them, and that's what annoys the hell out of me, because the fact that he keeps on saying that he's going to create depth to his characters, and he never does. And number 5 is Hateful Eight,
which I still really love. The way that it's shot, the way that it's done, that it is like a stage play, but it's shot like it's outside with the really wide shots inside. I love the style of it, and I love the when you're watching it, it is that ultra wide, the actual the bars at the top and the bottom when you're watching it on a screen now are bigger because it's actually so much more wider than a normal 2.35 ratio. And it's just beautifully shot. I think the characters are nicely fleshed out for most of them, and I think it's really well handled with the dialogue as well. I do think though it could have easily done with 20-25 minutes taken out at the start and certain bits, and I am getting a little bit tired of Quentin Tarantino doing this thing where he breaks things up into chapters and does it out of sequence, because it doesn't need to be done like that in all of his films. Just stop doing that as a gimmick and just tell the story.
Number 4 is Star Wars: The Force Awakens, which you've done to
Yeah.
absolute death. Number 3 is The Revenant,
which is a film that it loses a lot when it comes to the small screen, so you need to see it on the biggest screen you can, the best sound you can. If you've got surround sound, then take advantage of it, because it has got that the sound does give you the feeling of the ambience and the atmosphere of it. That opening sequence is an impressive kind of 10-minute sequence of an attack on a village, and then it becomes this film where it slows down for a while, but then you have an incredibly handled bear attack, and then you have this whole thing of just an endurance of the character for the rest of the film. And it's a very different and very slow for that, for some people I think are struggling with it, but I thought it was a great masterpiece of film, of style, of not necessarily continuity is one of its weakest moments, weakest things, but it's definitely, you can see why Leonardo DiCaprio won Best Acting for it.
Number 2 is A New One for Dad's Army,
which is quite disappointing because it's not anywhere near as funny as it could be. I don't know the original comedy, but I get the feel that it's a pale imitation of that. You do have a great cast in there. You have Toby Jones playing Captain Mannering. You have Bill Nighy, Michael Gambon. I think Alan someone, and you've got this whole thing going on, and you have this one of these weird things where it's a film that's being a comedy, but of course being a film it has to try and be serious at times and not be a riot stand-up comedy sort of thing, sitcom sort of thing, and so because of that I think it loses a lot of the humour. It doesn't work.
And at number 1 is a new entry, no surprise here, for Deadpool.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal, in so much so the fact that I actually went to try and get it on one day. I went through 3 shops and none of them had any copies left.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I did get it eventually, but I didn't get it on the day I was after it, and I was quite surprised by that, because it's not often that happens. It's just crazy. It's the trend breaker that's got the character that's just the filthiest mouth, the weirdest crazy action, and really just impressive that first of all that they managed to pull it off, second of all that they managed to get a studio like 20th Century Fox to back it.
Yeah, and thirdly, in a world where a lot of superhero movies have gone down the dark, brooding kind of route, you're probably going to shout at me this, but I don't care, but they've gone down a Twilight kind of route. Not that I'm actually saying that they're a quality of Twilight, nothing will be that bad. It's nice to actually see something as in Deadpool to be this over the top, graphically violent, bad language kind of stepchild which stands in the corner and only gets poked at with a stick and given a bucket of fish heads.
Yeah.
So another Simpsons reference there. But yeah, it's a really good film. I don't own it on Blu-ray and DVD yet. I'm contemplating whether to get some kind of 4K player, and if I do that, I'm going to stop buying films for now until I do. I'm not going to fall in the trap and buying loads of films and then just upscaling them.
Saying that, I did see the 4K version somewhere, and I think I saw it retailing at a price of about £30, which is ridiculous.
You can get them on Amazon for about 20. So
yeah,
the price
but it's still,
were when they came out.
There's nothing, I don't think, any reason for it to be more priced than a Blu-ray. It's ridiculous getting to that point.
It is, but what are you going to do? It's studios wanting more money. We've got a lot of films to get through, so we'll steamroll a little bit through them. First up is Trumbo, directed by a director who you wouldn't expect to direct a film like this, in the form of Jay Roach. Now, people might have sort of like heard the name before, but not sure what he's actually done in the past. And when you look at his the stuff that he's directed, everything from Austin Powers International Man of Mystery to Meet the Fockers and Meet Your Parents and Dinner for Schmucks, that's not a good sign. But he has actually directed a few dramas as well. He directed The Campaign, which has got drama elements to it. But this one is sort of like his most drama kind of film. And it's set in 1947. It centers around the character of Dalton Trumbo, who's brilliantly played by Bryan Cranston. And he's a screenwriter. He's a very popular screenwriter who's been writing a ton of films for all the big studios. However, when it's actually discovered that he is part of the blacklist, which is 10 screenwriters who was discovered to be, I haven't got it written down, they're not Republicans, they're Democrats, aren't they?
Yes, they are Democrats, but it's to do with the whole thing of them being connected with communism.
Yeah, communists, that's it. That
Communism.
was the word I was trying to think of. I didn't have it written down. I knew the call them Democrats kind of thing now, but it's the communists. They were attached to that. They sort of like still had the belief that the country itself is a fantastic country, but it needed to be that everybody who was at involved in the high up kind of stuff needed to be sort of like, in a way, pretty much usurped and changed. The government needed to be changed because the way they were ruling the country was wrong. So by having this kind of beliefs, he is stuck on a blacklist along with 10 other screenwriters, and he's unable to actually write anymore. He has to write under a pseudonym or get friends to write for him. One of his friends played by Alan Tudyk. And he ends up winning things like Oscars under pseudonym names, and he's finding it really hard to get work. The only kind of stuff that he is able to do properly is schlock pictures, like B, sort of like, say, even D-grade movies. John Goodman, he plays a studio head of a company that all they do is that kind of sick stuff. So it's things like Plan 9 from Outer Space and movies like that kind of ilk. However, things start to change when people start to believe in the writing of Trumbo, and this clip will actually prove you one of the characters, John Wayne, he's actually trying to create a film itself, and Kirk Douglas as well. And Kirk Douglas, you'll hear a script from one of the most iconic movies ever.
Dalton.
My apologies. We've had more than our share of crank calls lately.
I can't imagine.
Please have a seat. May I get you a drink?
No, thank you.
All right. So,
I'm doing a new picture, and I just got the script.
Sure. There must be 7 hours of entertainment there.
Not a single page is entertaining. But there's a good story in there, somewhere, about one man who tried to take on the whole world.
Well, you've got me so far.
He was a slave, who led a revolt against the Roman Empire.
And what's the title?
Spartacus.
Now you listen to that voice there of John Wayne, and the first thing that cropped into Kirk Douglas, and the first thing that cropped into my mind is the actor is really channeling Owen Wilson. Sounds a lot like Owen Wilson.
The actor's actually Australian.
I know, but it sounded a lot like Owen Wilson. You expect like him to do the Blue Steel kind of look from Zoolander.
I'm pretty sure, just remembering that he does it at some point, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's sort of like a pouting kind of thing. And it slightly distracted me when I was watching. I was thinking, Owen Wilson could be playing this character, and you wouldn't actually know the difference. And the film itself, though, is a very good film. Specifically, Bryan Cranston, who plays Trumbo, is brilliant. He's one of those definitely actors who can turn a really sort of like mundane role and make it something special. But you've also got a very good supporting cast in the form of Diane Lane, who plays his wife, and you've also got Helen Mirren, who I've got written down is sort of like the way her character goes along. She's very much like Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter. She's sort of like got this demeanour where she might be nice and sweet, but you come anywhere close to her and she will rip your head off. She's a nasty piece of work through the film. You've also got John Goodman as well, and Elle Fanning, who plays Trumbo's daughter, and you have got some really good acting in the film itself. My only quibble with the movie is it just feels like it repeats itself a bit too much. It just has a slightly repetitive nature, and it starts to grate a little bit when you go through the film itself and you're thinking, I've seen this scene before. I've definitely seen this scene before. Hasn't he just done that there? And it just feels like they're following the same kind of thing, and the director lost a lot. He just didn't know how to actually stretch the film out to its 2-hour running time. That's my only slight problem with the film itself. The rest of it is is entertaining. There's a few giggles in there, giggles that you think to yourself, should I actually be laughing? But then it actually reels it back a little bit more, and so yeah, overall it's definitely a film that you should see.
I think it's really odd as well, because we seem to be getting this kind of revisiting that period in history, a whole thing of the blacklist and that going on. We have another film coming out in a couple of weeks. We were talking about it during the clip there, Hail Caesar, which is the Coen brothers, kind of a spoof thing, but it is set around a studio in the 50s, just after the sort of the blacklist thing has happened and all, and it's actually centering around the making of a film that's very similarly kind of linked in with the events in Trumbo and such, and it's odd that we're getting a lot of them come back, and it's nice that Trumbo is kind of, it's the one that tells a story but also makes a statement about the fact of how these men were treated by certain people in Hollywood, more out of just because they were into it, they didn't toe the line that everyone else did, and they just basically were kind of bullied into submission to a point. And it's a deplorable thing, but it makes for a really good drama in the film, and I really think Bryan Cranston is just absolutely brilliant in the film. Diane Lane, who plays his wife, is very good in the role. She's not got a lot to do in most of the film, and I agree that the character that sort of sets it all against him is brilliantly played as well. It's almost like the character in I'm trying to think of the name now. The character played by Kristen Scott Thomas in a film where she was the most vile character that you just kind of hated her, and that was what made her such an interesting character. And the Ryan Gosling one, I forget the name of it now.
Pass.
The Nicholas Winding Refn one, I can't remember, but it's a film.
I know which one.
Yeah, you can't think of the title.
It's gonna be stuck in my brain, and then I want
it's
to say
like
Only God Forgives.
Yeah, that's
like
it. Only God Forgives. I was thinking something Only Lives or something. Yeah, but yeah, Only God Forgives, or God. It will. Anyone listening should be able to figure it out from that. But it's got the character played by her in that. It's much more vile, but it's still a horrible character that just is an interesting role. And that's what the film does. The film doesn't just focus on the character Trumbo as much as he gets front and centre, the main part, but it focuses on the characters around him and the people that he interacted with and stuff, and that's what makes it a really good. You don't just see him, you see everyone around him, sort of thing.
It is Only God Forgives.
Yeah. Okay, By the Sea, which is written and directed by Angelina Jolie, who also stars in the film. With Brad Pitt, her husband in real life. They play a married couple in the film, playing Vanessa and Roland. It's a film set during the 1970s where they've travelled to France and basically taken up residence in a hotel there for a break, so that Roland, who is a writer, can find himself some sort of inspiration to write his latest thing. Their relationship between the two of them is not so great. It's kind of on the rocks. There is this whole kind of sort of a sexual repression between the two of them that's sort of like a wall between them, and things sort of are falling apart for them, but things sort of start to become a little bit interesting for them when Vanessa finds there is a hole through the wall. It's a very hidden small hole, which connects to the room next door, in which there is a couple played by Melanie Laurent and Melville Poupard, who play Leah and Francois, and it's a thing of that she starts becoming sort of obsessed and observing them while Roland is away trying to write in sort of the local town. He goes into a bar and sits in there a lot of the time talking with the sort of the locals as much as he can in the scenes. It's sort of spoken French, but it's kind of broken French, and it's a film that is just, it never seems to really go anywhere. It never seems to really get sort of any kind of traction on what it's trying to do, and it's a thing of that it's just it plods along for most of its time without anything happening. Which it has this whole thing of looking at the sights and the way things are, and you think, yeah, okay, this is nice. It's nicely shot, but it doesn't really have much of a story, much of a plot, much of a character. And the thing is, you've got these two characters who there could have been so much more done with them. It just feels like there's not enough here. There's half a script at most, because you're just sitting there wondering what's going on. Don't even have a clip for it because there was barely any clips released for it to be able to play. And it's kind of just been dumped, and you can see why. It's just very, very, very lackluster.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I had no interest in it. It's one of those ones where you watch the trailer of it, and the trailer just does absolutely nothing for you. You just think
doesn't grab you, yeah. It's what the film's like.
Boring film.
That is just what the film is like. It's surprising as well. It's a shame because Angelina Jolie has got an eye for directing, and it's not badly directed. I think it's just the fact that she's directing it after she's written it, and she's acting in it. And I don't think she's done too much. I think it's the fact that she's lost focus on it, that she's started writing it and going, oh, this will be good, we can do this, and then gone start filming it and got distracted by the filming rather than really having the scripted part done.
Yeah. Well, on to Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Road Chip, the fourth.
This should be good.
Yeah, I reviewed it in the cinema section. You were supposed to review it in the Blu-ray and DVD one. Chickened out. But yeah,
didn't chicken out, just didn't have time.
You chickened out. It's directed by Walter Becker, and it centers around Alvin, Simon, and Theodore, those lovable chipmunks who we all want to strangle.
Alvin!
Yeah, they're worse than that. In this one, they're still living with Dave, played by Jason Lee. He's played Dave throughout the entirety of the series of films. In this one, they discover that Dave has got a girlfriend. As a matter of fact, he's actually fallen in love with her. They go away on holiday, and the Chipmunks discover that Dave is going to propose to her. So it's up to them to supposedly stop them with the help of his girlfriend's son, which is going to be brothers to them, and hijinks ensues. Here's a clip.
Did you see me? I was on fire!
Oh my god, you guys were awesome. Hey, Miles, right? Wow, you played great.
Thanks. You're a cool song. I mean, I love when music with your mouth.
Oh, brother.
You're great.
Thank you.
Phew, she bought it.
Anyways, I have this party I'm supposed to go to in LA Saturday night. If
definitely, yeah, I definitely would like to do. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Well, then I'll definitely see you there. Bye.
Bye.
Smooth, Miles. Real smooth.
So in the clip there, you heard Alvin, who's voiced again by Justin Long. Yes, he actually voices Alvin, but on helium, and then turned up to like 10 squeaky monitor. Matthew Gray Gubler, who does the voice of Simon, and Jesse McCartney, who does the voice of Theodore. It's exactly the kind of thing that you expect from an Alvin and the Chipmunks movie. If you didn't like any of the previous ones, there is no way you're going to find anything at all funny to do with Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Road Chip. It was a one film joke, but they've managed to stretch that one film joke to 4 films. It's really shocking that they managed to do that. It's not as bad as Chipwrecked, which was the previous one. That was just absolute garbage. This one, they bring back the Chipettes, and they do an American Idol thing. They're awful. The film itself is barely tolerable. It scratches the surface of being so annoying that you want to throttle yourself rather than the people involved, but you just come at the end, out the end of it, sort of like panting, sweat beads dripping from your brow because you've managed to succeed to sit through another Alvin and the Chipmunks movie. I've had to suffer through all 4 of them. Please don't make me sit through a 5th.
Okay. I don't know what I'm going to do because I haven't seen any of them. So if I watch one, I'm literally going to be lost as to what's going on at all.
No, you're not. It's
Yes,
not that the fact that there's a full single narrative running through the entirety of the series there.
Okay, I'm going to go on to
make some kind of deal, like you've got to sit down and watch all 4 of the Alvin and the Chipmunks movie, and I might have to sit down and watch all 4, the 4 Twilight films or something. There's 5, isn't there?
There's
4.
7, isn't there?
No, there's not that many.
No. Okay. Gem and the Holograms. as if you cannot tell from my tone how this review is going to go. It's directed by John M. Chu. Yes, he who is, I think, directing. What is he directing? The new Fast and Furious film, isn't he?
Yeah. He also directed. Didn't he do G.I. Joe?
Yes, that's right as well. And it is based on the 80s cartoon, although I did not know that when I saw the movie. It's based on the cartoon. It is a whole live action thing. It is not a cartoon film, but it's basically a story about a group of sisters, the central character of which, Jerica, played by Aubrey Peoples. At the start of the film, we see her through events in her life and the fact that her father is no longer with them, talking about him, how he used to sort of be in their life and how he was sort of interested in things. And at one point she does this thing where she basically makes a video of her singing a song. Somebody then posts this to YouTube and it gets recognised and gets hundreds and hundreds of hits, and loads of people absolutely love her and everything, including music studio executives who start sort of trying to find out and basically come along with one played by Juliette Lewis, who has come along to basically make her and her sisters an offer. Here's a clip.
You must be
Aja. Shayna.
I'm Kimber. Oh, Jerica. Jerica Benton. Come over here. Jerica Benton. You are cute and quirky. And no longer Jerica.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? What do you mean? What do I mean? The whole world wants to know who you are right now, which means so much free publicity. This is exactly the artist that Starlight has been looking for. Equal parts talent and mystery. Talent, mystery. Which reminds me, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, all of that, until further notice, none of it.
Thank God. Wait, what? She's so awesome.
And the money. You get paid. Who doesn't want money? After the last show, you get a paycheck. But that's not what this is about. I want you all to think of this as an opportunity to reinvent yourselves. Escape, forget all that dismal mediocrity that you grew up in.
So, from that clip, you would think it's going to be a film about the whole thing of the media and the whole thing of producing music and stuff and how it goes and everything with the music industry, and maybe a good commentary on the state of the music industry at the moment and things. And you'd be completely wrong, because it's about nothing. It's an awful waste of anything. I watched this in the same week I've seen By the Sea. I would gladly have sat through By the Sea again than watching this. It's awful. It's just boring. It's the characters in it you don't care about. The sisters are just, oh yeah, it's got just, oh shut up. Oh, I can hear them in my head now from, oh no. It's just, I honestly, I watched this and I went into it knowing that it got absolutely slated by loads of people. It got slated by fans of the original cartoon series, which I have no bearing on, so I don't know. But so I thought, oh well, maybe they just don't like it because it's maybe not faithful to that. An adaptation of a cartoon doesn't have to be, faithful entirely. It can be a separate and do its own thing. Oh, it's just awful. It's horrible. I was sitting there watching this and I just wanted it to end. And it's a 2-hour film. It's 2 hours of nothing. It really is. I honestly do not know where the 2 hours went, because I was sat there and it just droned on, and it's awful. You've seen this, haven't you?
I reviewed it when it was released at the cinema.
I can't remember what you said on it, but it's just it's abominable.
I didn't like it at all. The thing with this film, when it opened up in America, it opened up on 1,000+ screens, and it bombed because of the fact that it didn't even make the top 10. And I think it's one of only 4 films to ever do that in the history of the US box office, to be released on 1,000+ screens and not to make the top 10. There was a movie based on a kids' TV program in America which did that the year prior.
It has this weird thing where it's trying to tell this story about them and their dad. And this whole thing of there's this weird kind of little robot thing that comes in, and you're just sitting there and you're like, what? you honestly, talking about like head scratching films, this week I'm going to end up being bald if I have to watch any more films like this week. I really am. I'm going to not just from scratching my head, but from pulling my hair out.
Okay, then we'll move on then to Visions, directed by Kevin Grutert, who did the last 2 Saw films.
Which ones were they? Was there 7 of them?
There's 7 Saw films, so he did 6 in the final chapter. And so, yeah, he's got a brilliant pedigree, hasn't he? In the film itself, it centres around Isla Fisher's character, who plays Everly. And she is pregnant. She moves out to this vineyard with her husband, who's played by Anson Mount. And this vineyard, they find out that was the original owners didn't treat the vineyard very well. As a matter of fact, the vineyard didn't even treat them very well. It was difficult for them to actually grow any kind of crops. However, she, Everly, who's like I said played by Isla Fisher, she starts to see visions, and so she ends up getting help from a psychiatrist doctor who's played by Jim Parsons. Yes, Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory, to try and get some help. However, she's still constantly seeing seeing visions of something that might have happened in there, and it doesn't help when this wine critic who also lives in the middle of town, she seems to strange things happen to her when she's inside of a house. And so the film plods along discovering what actually went on there, and could it be supernatural, could it all be in her head, could it be something else? The film itself it follows a supernatural slant for a good hour, and then it takes a bit of a U-turn and does something different. Now, the different part is the interesting part. That's when the film actually turns more into a thriller rather than the horror. And it actually becomes quite watchable. When it does the horror part, it becomes quite unwatchable, because it uses exactly the same tropes we've seen before, just nowhere near as good as we've seen in multiple films. As a matter of fact, Kevin Grutert, he did a few more interesting stuff with the last Saw film than he did with this. And it's only in the last half an hour when you think to yourself, why didn't you just make the film exactly the way you've done the last half an hour? Because it would have made a much more interesting film. Very much like there's a film that was released on Netflix called Hush, which is a very, very good sort of like home invasion movie. And it's really well told out, and it just sticks by its guns as it being a home invasion thriller film. This film would have worked much better if it was very similar in style and tone to that. It's not awful. It's watchable because of the last half an hour, but you have to slog through the first hour to get to the good stuff.
Okay, The Escort is a movie written by Michael Donegan and Brandon A. Cohen, directed by Will Slocum. It is a drama slash kind of romance, I'll get to that in a moment, film about a woman who is an escort, played by Lindsay Fonseca. You have in the film a character named JP, played by Tommy Dewey, who is a struggling writer who goes to apply for a job, is turned down, but then manages to talk his way into it by basically saying, you know, give me an assignment, I'll go out, I'll find something and write about it. He ends up bumping into this escort and sort of ends up talking with her at one point, and comes back to her saying, you know, that she would be a good idea for a subject to write about. Here's a clip.
I'm not trying to save you, or sleep with you, for that matter. All I want to do is write a story. An interesting one. I think you have one.
Well, that's great. So my family can find out I'm an escort in some idiot's Tumblr.
No. Look, it's not for a blog. It's for, like, a legit magazine.
Well, let me see a card.
Well, I don't technically work for them yet. This is my application piece.
You're full of usual. Vodka, rocks, 2 lines.
This guy's a cop.
You're a cop?
I'm not a cop.
No, he was in here earlier. He wouldn't show his nuts. That's a tell.
What? How is that a tell?
It's a film that has an interesting setup with this character, because he has an addiction, which I won't get into here because it's kind of a bit of a plot spoilerish, but he has this thing going on. He's also dealing with his father, who's played by Bruce Campbell in the film, so a lot of people will recognise him as, you know, Ash from the I was going to say Walking Dead, the Evil Dead series, and it's a film that it starts to get some traction. It starts to really get going, and I actually like the characters. I thought it interesting. The discussions, a lot of the time, it's just them sort of talking, and it kind of feels real. The dialogue between them feels good. The problem I do have is that, as I said, the romance aspect of it, which comes into play as the film goes on and it starts to become the focus of the film, I felt then it was just very out of place. I just really felt like it didn't need it. Could have just carried on and been a good film about the way it was. It went and turned into that. and that I really did hate about it, because it just felt so, we've seen this before so many times, didn't need it, why are you doing that, don't bother, just go on with the way you had it going, and it was doing well. So it starts off well, it really kind of started to gnaw at me towards the end as it built up, but it was surprisingly a better film than I was expecting, because it's a small thing, and I wasn't expecting it to be any good, and especially given the other things I've seen this week, I was getting into it a bit more.
The Forest, directed by Jason Zada, and as you can tell, we're steamrolling through the last few ones because they're very small films. This one actually had a proper big screen release. It stars Natalie Dormer, who plays both Sarah and Jess, and it centers around Sarah's character, who ends up travelling to a forest known as the Suicide Forest in Japan, where last sightings of her sister was actually there, Jess. And so it's up to her to go over to Japan to get the help from the friend of Jess's to journey into the forest to discover exactly what happened to her sister. Very simple, basic premise to the film itself. Very awful film, actually. The film itself is just... I've said this a few times tonight, when movies follow exactly the same kind of horror tropes, or the kind of thing that we've seen before, quiet bang kind of stuff, or look, there's a grimy kind of thing popping out from the trees there, and there's a witch maybe's involved, and blah de blah de blah. It ticks every single mundane, boring box that we've seen in these kind of films before, and does absolutely nothing interesting with it whatsoever. There is no interesting twist behind it. There is just nothing that'll make you wonder what's actually happened to Jess, or if Sarah can actually find her. There's just nothing going on in this movie at all. It's a 90-minute rehash of scenes that we've seen before, done better in multiple other films, just stitched together and then thrown out there and making people believe that you are seeing something new. It's just not. It's avoidable.
Walk of Shame, which is written and directed by Stephen Brill, stars Elizabeth Banks as a woman who is a news anchor at a network. She is up for a position at another news network, a much more better one she's really hoping for. Has the interview sort of the next day after being told that she isn't going to get the job. She's been ruled out of it incorrectly, which as a result of that she goes out on a bender, gets absolutely hammered with some friends, ends up meeting a guy played by James Marsden and having a one-night stand. So, of course, when she wakes up the next morning, she's got 8 hours to get to this interview, and looks basically like a hooker in the dress that she was wearing in a nightclub. Her hair is an absolute mess. She doesn't have her phone, her car. She has her car keys, but her car's been towed, of course, and is in downtown LA trying to find her way. And, of course, it turns into a whole thing of all these kind of skits and things that she runs across, as well as a lot of kind of people's opinions looking at her and the way they treat her and such. As example, one woman does it when she gets on a bus. Here's a clip.
Have you no shame?
I don't know who you think you are, judgy son, but I am, just trying to get to work.
Why don't you get your pimp to drive you? These people are good people.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the sign. Good people only. How do you know what is in my soul?
Oh, I can tell.
$1.50.
I can tell.
Okay, does the $1.50 need to be paid at every stop, or does it cover the entire journey?
Are you for serious?
I am for serious. Do you take credit cards?
Yeah, you can swipe it right there.
Really? That is an amazing, innovative technology that you can just... Do you take debit cards?
Do you have a debit card?
I do not.
Listen, I'm gonna give you some advice.
Sure.
You might want to think about another line of work, because you ain't no good at this. If you ain't even got $1.50, you probably should think about retiring as a whore. And if you do scrape up $1.50, use it to buy yourself a sandwich. That's the reason you can't turn no tricks, because you ain't got no meat on your bone.
Now, the film itself is... That clip there is a perfect example of what the film is. It is a 10-minute sketch stretched out to actually I'm trying to think how long it was now, an hour and a half. So it's not even a long film, but it's stretched out far longer than it needs to be. And of course, as the story goes along, it gets more ludicrous things happening. There is the thing is, it's a film that I actually found it to be really outdated opinion of things, of people having a one night stand sort of thing, that everyone's then going, oh, you're so bad for doing it, you shouldn't be doing that, and the whole thing, and the fact of that she runs into people who are then at one point she runs into a Jewish guy who's outside of a Jewish church, I can't think of the name of it, but he's there, and he's not allowed to talk to women and be potentially attracted to them and distracted by them, and she's there, and it turns into that sort of situation. And then you have the whole thing of she runs into these guys who it turns out are drug dealers, and of course they're black, and it's one of the most stereotypical movies that you get. It's barely funny, and it's honestly a film that it's just awful. It's, again, I really think I picked the shortest straw of them all this week. It's a complete...
Welcome to my world. It happens to me more than often than not.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like this character that's played by Elizabeth Banks as well, you cannot stand her for more than 5 minutes, because after a while she just becomes... Everyone treats her like she's a hooker, and she doesn't really set them straight or anything. She just stands there in a kind of like, yeah, well, you know what, and that's it. It's badly written. It's badly everything.
And we'll just leave it at that then, because that's it for the new releases of this week. Let's do TV movies of the week.
I've got quite a few, actually.
I know, and one of them you probably got exactly the same as mine.
Quite possibly. But I've got now. I'll do them in order of when they're on. Wednesday, so tomorrow, the 22nd of June, 9 o'clock. Film for Black Hawk Down.
Nope.
Thursday the 23rd at 9 o'clock as well. Riddick is on, which is I believe the premiere of the third Riddick film. Friday the 24th. Now on Film 4 at 11:05 PM we have Starred Up with Jack O'Connell, which is a great film. It's not my pick of the week, but it is a very great film. And then the same night on Friday 24th on Channel 4 at 12:35 is The Fifth Estate, which came very close to being my choice to see, because it's a film that I think is very underrated about the whole thing of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, with Benedict Cumberbatch doing a great performance in the film. You have on Saturday, on the 25th, Channel 4 8 o'clock, Life of Pi. I suspect the other film, one of the film you're talking about, is on Film 4 that night at 12:30 AM.
Nope.
No, because I still haven't seen it and I do want to see it. But Blue is the Warmest Colour is on Channel 4.
I've got that down.
That's on Friday night. Saturday night, Sunday morning at 12:30 AM on Film 4. And my choice though goes to a film on Sunday. Now on Sunday there's two films on. One is Film 4 11:25, Enemy of the Gates. But my choice is before that on Channel 4 at 9 o'clock. And that is The Railwayman with Colin Firth. It's a very, very good drama, and it's one that if you watch it and by the end of it does not at least bring a tear to your eye, then something is wrong with you.
No, I don't even think I've seen it, actually.
It's a very, very good drama. It's the one about a man. It's based on a true story of a real person, and basically a man who was held prisoner by the Japanese in World War II and forced to work on the railway line that they had them building, and he was tortured during this, and it's then comes back to present day with him, and he basically finds out that the captor who tortured him is still alive.
By the way, Blue's the Warmest Colours on Channel 4, not Film 4.
Is it Channel 4? I put it down as Channel 4. Okay.
I also had Starred Up as well, but Starred Up is my movie of the week, TV movie of the week. Two other films quickly mentioned. Sleepers is on ITV4 on Thursday the 23rd of June at 10:11.
I would recommend, if you're going to watch Sleepers, don't watch it on a channel with adverts, because it's
unfortunately it's shown on ITV4 again on Saturday night, but that's the only channel that it's on. But yeah, it's a fantastic film, but it's a very long movie, made even longer by the fact that it's got adverts in it. And also on the horror channel on Sunday the 26th at 9 o'clock there's a small little Irish film called Grabbers, which was released on New Year's Eve over here. But yeah, it's really funny. It's that sort of like tongue-in-cheek comedy horror kind of stuff. And yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. But my TV movie of the week is Starred Up on Film 4, Friday the 24th at 11:05. Out of the three films that Jack O'Connell released during the period of time there, Starred Up was the strongest one, I think.
I'm trying to think what the other one was. Oh, 71. Okay.
71,
Yeah.
and he also did that one directed by
yeah.
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of that, but I was thinking of that. Yeah, because I actually have 71 as well on Blu-ray. I did pick it
Yeah,
up.
and I viewed them in the order of Startup 71, and then the one with Angelina, directed by Angelina Jolie in it. So, yeah, but Startup was, I think, the strongest one. It's a tough watch.
It is.
But
It's very, very good though about the whole prison society and the prison culture, basically.
yeah, and so that's it for this week's show. What's your overall movie of the week?
It's going to be a video release. It's going to be Trumbo.
Now, for me, it's difficult. I'm going to leave Cemetery of Splendour to one side because the fact that, like I said, it's a very niche kind of movie. Tale of Tales, it's also a movie that quite a few people might be turned off by it. It's definitely worth to see. So I'm just going to go for the easier one, and that's The Conjuring 2. So The Conjuring 2 is my movie of the week. And that's it for this week's show. Make sure you check out the website mondaymovieshow.co.uk to find out when the next show is. You can follow us on Twitter at Monday Movie Show. I'm at Cryptic Tadpole, Andrew's at EHDVD. The show is on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Monday Movie Show. You had Stuart from Page to Screen, just done a few shows. Don't know when the next horror show is, because things have been changing around a little bit. But make sure you follow him on Twitter from Page 2, the number 2 Screen. Following the Gamer, we did our E3 special last week. The normal show returns on Saturday with me, Al, and Shane. It's the Dark Child of the show. It does feature swearing and all that McGubbins, but you do get the warnings and stuff like that before it now, so there's that to look forward to this Saturday at 9 o'clock live on this stream as well. And that's it. We'll return next Monday or Sunday or Tuesday. We'll flesh out the details of that. They'll be on the website as well, when we're looking at not only The Secret Life of Pets, which I've seen already from Illumination Studios, who did Despicable Me and Minions, but also I can't believe it's 20 years old.
Yeah. Independence Day.
Yeah, the sequel to Independence Day. Independence Day is 20 years old, 1996 when it came out. So the sequel, Independence Day Resurgence, is out in cinemas midnight Wednesday leading into Thursday. So it's officially out on Thursday. And so we'll play you out with a clip from that. And until next week, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Here we go. All right, coming for you, baby. There she is.
What is it, an alien laser?
Nope, that's the Oaken laser. Careful, you'll agitate the crystals. I built it back in '94. Had to shelve it, though, after the meltdown in Sector 3. Here, put it over here.
What is that thing doing here?
All right, be a good boy. Go stand over there.
Wait a second, what meltdown? Are we sure this thing is safe to use?
Highly unlikely. Clear!